Hey, what is up, everyone? My name is Justin Kruger, community developer on Rainbow Six Siege, and welcome to the White Noise Mid-Season Reinforcements live stream. I'm joined by some amazing guests. We got Craig Robinson, aka It's Epi, to my left. What's up, Craig? How's it going, man?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing well, man.
Good.
Excited for this stream. It's going to be
absolutely.
a pretty sweet stream. We're going to run through a couple of the mid-season reinforcement patch updates that's going to be deploying next week. And
what days are they going to be deploying on?
I don't know. Tell me. Yeah.
So we're going to be deploying the mid-season reinforcement patch on Tuesday of next week for PC. And then consoles are going to be deploying the following day on Wednesday.
Absolutely. And the man sitting to your left is Jean-Baptiste Salé, game designer on Rainbow Six Siege. How's it going, JB?
Doing good, thank you. What about you?
I'm doing well, man. Doing really well. You guys are going to run through a few of the changes that players can expect in that 4.2 patch. And then following this segment, you don't want to go anywhere because we are going to provide you updates on the upcoming 6th Invitational, which is going to be our biggest event of Siege for its entire history. It's going to be huge. It's going to be one of the biggest celebrations for Siege, and we're so excited about it. And of course, we're going to be doing the group stage drawing for the 16 teams that will be at that competition. So you do not want to go anywhere. And then at the end of the stream, we also have a really special premiere teaser for an upcoming video documentary series, which for you esports fans, do not want to go anywhere. You do not want to miss that. So after the draw, check that out. But right now, we're focusing all on mid-season reinforcements. We're live streaming from the hub center of the epicenter.
Yeah, I think we call it the epicenter.
The epicenter?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to call it the
This is
epicenter. I hate calling it the epicenter, but I know you.
It's
the
my
epicenter.
brand, and we're going to have to just stick
fine.
with epicenter. Thank you.
We're live streaming right from the epicenter of Rainbow Six Siege at Ubisoft Montreal. So we figured we'd give a little bit of a look at the upcoming update. Craig, run us through a few of those buffs and nerfs that players are going to expect in the balancing changes in 4.2.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, let's kick it off with a little conversation about Ela, because that's probably the one on everyone's mind right now. So JB, yeah, I'd say so. So JB, when we're talking about an operator like Ela, I know that originally when we released her, we were kind of having a conversation with our players about her. We said that we wanted her to be able to take on a few operators, a few enemies at a time, and make it through that. What are your kind of thoughts on that, and how that statement has had, if it has had any impact on her changes at all, or how that's played out?
So I think it was probably badly phrased as some things that we said during the patch note. The idea is just that she's probably a bit better than other operators at doing it. Obviously, we don't want her to win the majority of this engagement. So I think the starting point on Ela is maybe to acknowledge that she's been very, very overpowered since she released, and we should have nerfed her earlier. So it's an apology, we should have definitely nerfed her earlier. For this one, a bit of context, the 6th Invitational is coming very, very soon, and it's going to be a huge impact, like Justin said, and we don't want to take too many risks. We don't want to make too big meta changes before it, so that teams can basically kind of repeat what they've been working on for so long. It doesn't mean that we're going to stop there for Ela. Definitely, so first nerf is coming. Her magazine is going to be reduced to 40 bullets. As many people, I don't think this is going to be enough to control how overpowered she is right now. It's just that we need to look at how impactful this first change is, and then think about next changes.
Okay, so let's back it up a little bit and break down a few of those things that you mentioned there. So that original statement, maybe not exactly what we were really going for in hindsight. So I think what we're looking for primarily is for her to be able to potentially sometimes survive an encounter with two attackers.
That's the idea with having more bullets than others. The thing is, if you take LMGs, for instance, I don't think anyone would say LMGs are broken right now. There are other parameters of these guns that make it extremely powerful. The rate of fire, the fact that it's still very precise in spite of the title update 3.2, the 3.2 patch note nerf. So there's a bunch of other aspects. It also does a lot of damage for such a high rate of fire gun. So there are other aspects of the guns that we could work on without necessarily taking all the taking it back to a normal design size.
Okay,
it could be an option as well. We'll see.
Okay, awesome. And then additionally with that, we have obviously her weapon is pretty strong. but we didn't really want to make too many major changes to how the operator itself feels prior to the Sixth Invitational, because that would be difficult for our professional players, as talented as they are, to really adjust to and adjust all their strategies to a different meta that close to the Sixth Invitational.
Exactly.
Now, her weapon is one thing. What about her gadget? I know we had a couple adjustments coming in this patch about the gadget and how that interacts with other operators as well as her sister.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think concussions across the board right now are too powerful. One of the reasons is that the delivery system of this crowd control effect is more effective than others, like for both sisters, because in both cases it guarantees you that you got the result on your target. So because of that, and because of also the fact that the crowd control itself is very strong, like it impacts hearing, visual, your movement speed, and of course your rotation speed. Like if you combine all of that, it's just the best crowd control, like by far from in all the game.
Yeah.
So I think it's fair to like nerf it step by step, and we're starting by just making the strongest effect, so the rotation speed and the movement speed nerf. We're starting by making those shorter than the global effect.
Okay, awesome. And just wanted to show, we have obviously this gameplay that we're sharing. We are playing with with our dev testing team in the studio. Thank you, all of you, for taking the time out of your day to join us.
Yeah, it's pretty great. You're checking out their gameplay right now,
yep.
And it's pretty cool. And you're also checking out the first look at the overlay for the new caster cam, which is really exciting as well.
Absolutely,
yeah. It looks really cool, yeah.
But, okay, so that's kind of Ella in a nutshell. To kind of TLDR it for everyone out there, she's in a spot. We've made a few adjustments to bring her down as far as how incredibly powerful she is. We're not done, still working on it, but couldn't make too many drastic changes just leading up to the Invitational. So JB and his balancing team that we're going to be talking more about at the Invitational are going to continue to work on her.
Indeed.
That's awesome. So speaking of that balancing team, JB is currently the lead of a team that we're going to be we have a whole balancing panel that's going to be coming at the Sixth Invitational. And I'm going to be meeting with JB and some of the other members of that team. We're going to be talking about the process through which we go through and we assess, and how we assess what is and is not overpowered, broken, and how we figure out what changes to make. So
exactly.
That'll be a really fun one at the Sixth Invitational, so you're not going to want to miss that. One of the other changes that we have coming is to Twitch.
Indeed.
She has a fairly strong weapon, the F2.
Yeah.
But the change was more towards her drones. And we brought the number of charges in her drone that you're seeing right now from 15 shots to 5 shots per drone for a total of 10 shots. Could you kind of walk us through the thought process that you and your team had and why you felt like that was a necessary change?
Of course. Basically, Twitch right now is in a very, very, very strong spot. She's extremely strong. And like you said, there are different reasons for that. And I think the FAMAS is a very good explanation also of why she's so strong. It's probably the best attacker's gun, maybe the best gun in the game, like besides maybe Ella's one. But it has super high rate of fire for an assault rifle, so it's a very, very good gun. The thing is, we also felt like the amount of ammunition that the Twitch drone had was not really making any sense. And we didn't want to push the two changes at the same time, because when you do something like that, you have basically two variables.
And what do you mean by two changes? Do you mean to her weapon and her drone?
Exactly, exactly. So what I'm saying is it's very possible that we end up nerfing the FAMAS a bit, because it's very, very strong right now, and her win ratio and her pick rate are probably a bit too strong. So it's very possible we do that. We just wanted to split the two changes apart.
Okay, so
I think that's a really interesting and important point that you just brought up too, is that we look at pick rates and win rates really in-depthly, and I think that's going to be a part of your panel as well. And,
absolutely.
And looking at that data behind the players, because everything that all of you players are doing out there, every single decision that they're making has an impact on the game and has an impact on directly on the balancing based on that data that we're looking at. How do you use that? How does your team really use that to define the Twitch drone?
Well, I guess the first thing that we looked at is how efficient is it actually at breaking gadgets. When we discussed a bit with pro players and when we looked at the stats, we got to the same conclusion, which is that this change probably wouldn't have very big impact, because most of the time your Twitch drone is getting destroyed before getting much more than 4 or 5 shots out. Actually, the average amount of gadget destroyed per shock drone and per round is 1.4, so it's really not that much, and that includes like exterior cameras. So I don't think it's going to have a very big impact in a pro league or on a very high level, but we just want to like have a confirmation of what we think is going to happen, and then maybe like think about changing possibly the FAMAS.
Okay, so we'll see how these changes play out on the live build with the pro players in pro play, and then we'll kind of reassess whether or not
and get people's feedback on the first
love.
change. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So you also, just real quickly on Twitch, you also mentioned that there's a 1.4 destruction rate per gadget, or per shot.
Per drone and per round.
Yeah, per drone, per round, 1.4 gadgets broken. A lot of people were asking, why do you look at that data and determine that maybe we should buffer and not nerf her?
So buffer is more of a global thought. Like she doesn't need a buff right now. She's very, very popular for good reasons. We want her to remain popular. It's really good. Just that she's very, very strong. She has a super, super high win-loss ratio, super high KD. Like she has like every metric is in the green, which is good, but could be a bit too much. So I don't think she needs to be buffed. For her drone specifically, I think one thing that might be leading actually people to taking sometimes bad decisions is the amount of ammo was encouraging people to shoot a lot. When actually a really good Twitch player is going to shoot very few times but very efficiently. So it might actually encourage some people to use it better. I'm thinking, of course, to the Mira counter, like which is probably the strongest way to use your Twitch drone. So I'm really not sure it's going to be that big of a nerf, maybe not even a nerf.
So we're looking at players to make more of a smarter decision, more investment into each shot as opposed to just pew, 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 pew everywhere.
Shooting somebody in the butt, because that's what I do with Twitch.
Yeah.
Which is still something you can do a few times. Like you can sacrifice a drone to do that. It's just probably not in every case is the best way to use your drone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And now you have to make the decision, or at least I have to make the really difficult decision. Do I shoot that guy in the butt or do I shoot that Mira? It's going to be hard.
It's going to be the mirror window.
This is going to be...
Please, for my ELO, please shoot the mirror window. So, that's kind of a summary of our two major changes that we have coming in the patch. We got a few others, Lesion, Kapkan, Ash, and Bandit. Do you want to kind of dive into some of those?
So why don't we take a look at the two other sort of ones that we reduced in strength, and let's start off with Ash, because Ash is a really high pick operator.
She is. And she still will be, I think.
She still will be. And this was really, I think that what you're going to see in 4.2 is a theme of little changes that may have a really big impact on a high level or very kind of like outlying situations, but fairly little changes. What did we do for Ash?
We simply reduced a bit the amount of damage that her R4C is doing. The G36 is a less popular choice because it's just less efficient. Right now, the R4C is one of the best attacker's gun. It has a super high rate of fire as well, not as crazy as the FAMAS, but pretty high as well. So we're just trying to harmonize like the gun power in general, and we're just reducing a bit the damage. So she's not very easy to nerf Ash.
Yeah, well, you brought it down by a couple points of damage at various ranges. And we had a community member who kind of went in depth with those changes and produced a video about it. And it didn't seem to have too much of an impact at a few of those ranges. What are your thoughts on that? And could you see yourself and your team revisiting Ash in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The reason I was saying that she's not that easy to nerf is that she's a whole package. She's a 3-speed. She has a relatively small hitbox, not the smallest in the game, actually, but one of the smallest. So the whole thing is not that easy to play with. We don't have that many parameters that we can easily just tweak and see what's happening.
Right, because if her gadget is, you can't really change that without changing the actual dynamic of the gadget, and the usefulness of the gadget, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I don't think the gadget is really the core cause of her being that high of a pick.
Right. So any changes to that wouldn't really impact her pick rate. It's mainly her overall kit that she comes with.
She feels great, and it's a good thing that she feels great. We don't want her to feel any worse, but she just should be probably
absolutely,
like other operators should be as attractive a choice.
And the final sort of balancing nerf that we actually did was with Bandit, where we gave him one less barbed wire. What was the decision behind that?
Harmonization. It's just that he's very, very good operator in defense. Ella is overshadowing him for sure. Like she's been stealing like the show for way too long. Since she released. But even like that, like, he's still a very, very strong defender, which is a good thing as well. But It happens a bit too often that it's being picked solely because of the 3 barbed wires. It's a bit less true since we nerfed the barbed wires a bit. We're seeing a bit more Bandit C4s, but still, having the 3 barbed wires makes it a choice that you justified just because of that, and I don't think it needs that to be justified choice. I think his MP7 is awesome. He's still a 3-speed. He's still a very good operator.
Still has a good gadget as well. Yeah. A fairly good gadget. So
no ACOG though.
No ACOG.
No ACOG.
Sorry, guys.
That won't come.
Yeah. Is that? I mean, that's the question we get a lot. Will we ever see an ACOG return to a 3-speed defender?
I mean, we can never say never, but it's definitely not in the plans. And I think right now we actually consider that. Every result we've seen since we did that confirms us that it was a good choice.
The right decision.
Yeah.
Good. Very interesting. All right, so that wraps up all the nerfing for 4.2, and we have 2 small buffs. Let's start off with Kapkan since we're actually watching him right now. A few tweaks to his para. Tell us a little bit about what we did to that.
So for people who remember Kapkan when he shipped with frag grenades, and it was a bit crazy at that time. He had pretty much everything in his kit, like he had the frags, the smoke, the fire darts, and a very, very strong gun with a parafal. So everything combined, it was just too strong. When we nerfed him, we took out the frag grenades, and we also nerfed the parafal probably too hard at that time. So we're just trying to make him, give him a bit of a comeback because we feel like he's a really, really cool operator and we don't see him enough. His pick rate is really, really too slow. And when we've been talking and with pro players and looking at what people were saying, there was a very, very strong agreement around the fact that the para was too weak, too hard to control, too little damage because of his lower rate of fire. So everything combined, we just felt like he definitely deserved the parafal buff.
Absolutely. All right, cool. And I know there's a lot of Kapkan mains that still love Kapkan, and they're very happy to see some love coming back to Kapkan. And I think they should be a little pleased by some of this little tweaking that we're doing to make him a little bit more on par with some of the other operators. And I mean, that's the thing with Rainbow Six Siege is there's never going to be a no. There's never going to be a never. You know,
Exactly.
I think everything is kind of open to evaluation, to looking into whether or not this operator is going to get a buff or nerf or this is going to change. I think there's a lot of things that you guys consider, and we never really want to close a door and say never, because there could be, the meta could change, the game could change to the point where we actually do implement bigger, stronger buffs or bigger, stronger nerfs to certain operators. Yeah, absolutely. And closing it out, we have Lesion, whose timer on his refill timer for his goo mines changed from 35 seconds down to 30 seconds, allowing him to have 1 more goo mine per round. So why did you guys make this decision?
So it's a small change. We just really liked the guy and felt like he needed a little pat on the back.
It's the shorts. Yeah, he's just a really close friend of mine that I really, I thought he just needed a buff.
Exactly. So no, more seriously, we just felt like it's not going to make big changes in most of the games. The only time it's make a very big numeric change is if you survive until the very end of the round, because you get 1 more mine in that case. And we felt like we needed to encourage that gameplay even more. It's a specificity of what he's doing, which is having a strongest and strongest impact on the final push if he survives long enough. And we felt like we needed to encourage that even more, just to encourage that specificity. He's already in a decent place, so hopefully it won't cause his win rate or anything to skyrocket, but we don't think so. It's a pretty big change in most cases. Just as, it makes it a bit more comfortable during the beginning of the game, because at the end of your prep phase, you're already pretty much able to deploy 2, and already almost the 3rd is almost ready. So I don't know, it feels good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think Legion's strength really comes in that end game where he has a bunch of multiple goo mines and he's been saving them. And also, I mean, it provides so much intel that it's actually a pretty significant buff having those goo mines just 5 seconds quicker.
I think so.
Yeah, cool. Great. So that is a look at the 4.2 mid-season reinforcement patch coming up next week. Craig, when is that coming?
Again, that's coming on Tuesday for PC and on Wednesday for console. We're kind of staggering the releases just to make extra certain. that everything's squared away and solid on PC before we put it on console.
Cool. And don't go anywhere because we are about to talk about the 6th Invitational and do the group stage drawing for the 6th Invitational. JB, you're going to be there. Craig, you're going to be there. Are you guys excited?
I'm hyped.
Yeah. You're
Really hyped.
Yeah. I mean, JB, you were there last year, seeing all the fans, seeing all the emotion. It's a powerful
It was already like
yeah.
a very, very exciting moment for everyone that loves Siege, I think. And this year is going to be just on another planet. Like it's just
Absolutely.
something else.
Everything's going to be bigger. The prize pool is double. The teams are double. We have the past year's champions flags on our table as just a memory, remembering them, Elevate and Continuum for Xbox and PC. And we're hoping to crown a new champion this coming up in this February, which is going to be really exciting. Don't go anywhere. We have all of that, all of those updates and the group stage drawing coming up right after this.
The 6th Invitational!
Just a couple shots through that wall. What a shot from Temper as he's gonna go
that excitement, more people coming in the game.
It is one of our biggest updates that we will ever release in Siege. It is so huge.
Hey, what is up, and welcome back to the Mid-Season Reinforcements live stream with the 6 Invitational updates and group stage drawing. Once again, my name is Justin Kruger. I'm joined by 2 new guests. To my right, we have Parker, I always mess up your last name, Parker McKay? McKay, a.k.a. Interrobang, one of our awesome ESL casters. How's it going, Parker?
It's going well. It's nice to be here in Montreal yet again, and really stoked for our premier event that's going to be coming up next month. So.
Yeah,
thanks for inviting me.
The 6th Invitational is going to be an insane event. And to talk about the 6th Invitational in just a few moments, we have Maxime Vial, who is a new face on live stream. Yeah. You are the product manager in charge of the 6th Invitational. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so my job is basically, I'm in charge of all the organization of the event. Of course, this is not the job I'm doing alone. This isn't this is a team effort. We're working with a lot of people here. But yeah, the goal is really to make this event the biggest Rainbow Six Siege celebration. It's all about the community, the players, everyone that's invested and poured their time and heart into this game, and really make this the biggest celebration, as you said.
Yeah, it's going to be an incredible celebration, and you'll be going over that in just a few moments. Yeah. And Parker will be providing a little bit of analysis on the group stage drawing, and we'll be going over all the details around how that will work in just a few moments. But Parker, I just want to turn to you for a moment. Talk about the 6th Invitational, the teams that are coming, and how excited are you to actually go to the Six Invitational?
I'm really stoked, not just as somebody who's going to be able to work it, but also just as somebody who enjoys this game. Over the last week, we've seen now 3 really large organizations come in. We started off with Liquid, FaZe, and now we have YAG Gaming, which was announced about an hour or 2 ago. Prior to that, we've had another bevy of large orgs. Evil Geniuses joined us before that. Rogue, too, can't forget them. So it's really ramping up, and it's going to be tremendous. We have 16 teams that are incredible. We got to see the qualifiers and all of the action that provided, and was a very exciting contest. And I think that it's going to be an event where, heading in, there's no clear favorite.
Yeah.
And I think most of these teams have a pretty legitimate shot at actually winning, and that's the most exciting part.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting event, as we mentioned. I can't wait to see you up there casting all these different teams, seeing FaZe, Team Liquid, Evil Geniuses, Rogue, even all the other orgs, the less well-known orgs that are coming in as well. I mean, it's just such an exciting era, a new era for Rainbow Six Siege esports. The entire Montreal studio is really excited, and we cannot wait to get more into it. Yeah. So without further ado, let's start off and talk about the Six Invitational a little bit more. Max, what has your team been working on over the past 6 months or even longer?
Yeah, I mean, a bit more than that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of surprises coming up there. I'm not going to spoil all of them right here, but you've already heard about a few, of course. Of course, this is the biggest competition of the year. No surprise here. Everyone expects some great games, and I'm sure we'll have some. But we also have a couple new stuff. So one of them you heard about right now is the All-Star game. For example, you, the community, are going to be able to vote to pick the All-Star players that you want to see in this match, and we'll try to have a fun game with them, like something a bit different. Hopefully they'll pick some unusual operators. Maybe they'll want to work on some quirky word strats. I'm looking forward to that, really.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of fun.
Yeah, so we'll have this match. We have, of course, like big moments throughout the show. There's going to be a show match, which I'm not going to spoil right now, but with a team that you don't know yet. Of course, our grand final is going to be a best of 5, so a longer game than we've ever had in Rainbow Six. And yeah, all you can expect from a great esports show is going to be there.
Yeah, that's really cool. And what have you guys? So we showcased a little bit of look at Tohu back at the season 3 finals. Here it is again.
Yeah.
What can fans that are attending this event expect to enjoy?
So this is just a mock-up shot done by one of our artists working on the show, on the event. But this is just to give you an idea of what the venue and what the arena is going to look like. So this is not entirely up to date. The venue is not going to be laid out exactly like that, but it's pretty close to what we have. And you can already see, like, we're ramping up the production. Like, we have those great screens. We're going to have a lot of new information that you, as a spectator in the audience, are going to get when watching the games. For example, there's going to be live displays that are going to be linked to the game. So when an operator dies, there's those information popping up on those screens. When we get into when the diffuser gets planted, we're in the prep phase, all those moments are going to be highlighted. We want to make everything as clear as it can be, but also make it for like the most compelling show that we can ever make, for Rainbow Six.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool. I think that whole ambiance environment thing that you guys have been working on is going to be really, really amazing.
Very different mood set. We're going to have moods like celebrating all the seasons that have been released, the 8 seasons that came out so far.
That's really cool.
And of course, I haven't talked about this, but that's probably one of the big highlights of the show. We're going to be completely revealing Outbreak, with I'm sure most of you have heard of, but right now you don't know exactly what this is about. Well, you'll get to know it there.
Yeah, the entire Outbreak, new operators that are coming with that, and you'll find out everything at the Six Invitational, so you do not want to miss that. Speaking of the Six Invitational, it is an esport event. It is the culmination of a year of esports that all of these teams have been, grinding out. And you've been following it over the past year. You joined the ESL casting team a few months back, and you've been bringing a lot of energy and a lot of information to the casting team. So we're excited to have you here, Parker, to go over and analyze some of these teams. But let's take a look at a reminder of how the tournament structure is set up. So we're going to have 4 groups, and we're going to be selecting those groups today. So we have Group A, Group B, Group C, and Group D, and these teams will face off in the qualifiers or the group stage of the Six Invitational from the 13th to the 15th, and then the top 2 teams from each group will compete on the weekend of the 16th to the 18th, and it's going to be really, really exciting. So let's take a look at those teams that we have that have qualified for the Six Invitational so far. Obviously, some big names here, as you were saying, Parker. What are your thoughts on some of these teams?
When I got into casting this, I never ever thought that I would be able to sit here and potentially be able to cast a matchup between Liquid and FaZe. That just blows my mind right off the bat. You know, is the latest addition. That's a team that was founded by Fallen, who plays for SK Gaming. It's a large Brazilian org that just got off the ground, and of course that was the team that was known as Lanchoneta. Lanchoneta, depending on how you have it. And we still have the community vote team that is waiting to come in today. And just a little plug here now is that you can vote on it at this moment to determine which team from which region. It's Mantis representing APAC from EU, it's Vitality from Latin America, it's BRK, and then it's Flipside from North America, and one of those teams is going to be here. But it's just, both as a spectator, and as a caster, it's going to be great. And I don't know which one I'm more excited to do, to actually get to stand in the crowd and watch and see these matches, or to be actually sitting at the desk and putting a voice to it. That's absolutely just as neat.
And we should note that the community vote team does have a placeholder in the tier 3 bucket over here. And also, we cannot see the names in the bucket. They're all rolled up pretty tightly, so we can't see. So we're going to be also, as we draw, we're going to be, shielding our eyes, so it's completely fair. So there's no cheating here. There's nothing like that. So without further ado, let's start the draw phase. How this is going to work is we're going to draw tier 1 entirely, and so we'll draw. There can't be, and it's going to be 1 per group. So their tier 1 first draw is going to be in Group A. The next draw is going to be in Group B, and so on and so forth. So once we're done with tier 1, we'll go on to tier 2, and then we'll fill out the groups with the tier 3 buckets.
Also, a small disclaimer is that we cannot have 3 teams from the same region in one group. So should this ever happen in the drawing that's going to happen right now, we will be moving this team to the next group. So this is not some weird shenanigans we're doing. If you happen to see us switching a team to the next group, is because this would have just made a group with 3 teams from the same region, which goes against the rule of the event, basically. Just so you're warned. So let's go for the first team.
Let's do it.
I'm going to pick this one. And our Group A Tier 1 team is going to be Pentasports.
My favorite team.
Why is it your favorite team?
My favorite team. Pentasport, probably the most successful team that we've ever seen in Rainbow Six. They've won 3 of the 6 seasonal champions. Of course, the first one that they won was with a different roster, and you know that they're going to be playing with a bit of fire behind them because they had, I think, a disappointing finish for them in Brazil. They wanted to make the finals, if not win outright. They didn't even make it to the finals, so I pity whoever ends up in their group.
Absolutely. Right. So they're in Group A. Let's pull for Group B.
So for Group B, our Tier 1 team is going to be Team Liquid.
Oh, nice.
One of our newest teams, Liquid, of course, taking over the roster known as MOPA, who the core of that was the old BRK. They've been at a number of lands, extremely popular, really strong team. Liquid got a great roster there for them to compete with, and same thing. All of these Tier 1 teams are all going to share the same thing in common, is that it's going to be tough for whoever gets matched up, no matter what. So
yeah, absolutely, it's going to be a really tough tournament in those first few days, but really going to be kind of exciting. Our highest level of esports for Rainbow Six Siege. Absolutely. So I cannot wait to see who gets matched up against Team Liquid. All right. Next so for Group C.
For Group C, and incidentally for Group D as well. For Group C, our Tier 1 team is going to be Black Dragons.
So, Black Dragons were the hometown favorites in Sao Paulo that we just saw. They made the finals against ENCE, came pretty close to taking them to a 3rd map, but just couldn't get it done. And for them, I'm going to imagine that they're heading into the Invitational, taking stock of the mistakes that they made and changes there. And they're also going to come in. And at the moment, if you're Black Dragons, you think, okay, well, FaZe and Liquid are now the 2 new shiny Latin America teams. They need to prove that just because, they're the newer orgs, that Black Dragons is still one of the most dominant teams in the region. And I think that's going to be their focus.
I think that what's really something really interesting to note about Black Dragons is their fan base is so hardcore.
Yeah.
And I don't think you really understand it unless you've been to Brazil or been to Sao Paulo or been to one of these events that's seen it. I mean, we got a taste of it at the finals last year, but these fans are diehard.
Yeah, and you could see it when we were in Sao Paulo. It was probably 80% of the crowd was Black Dragons fans. It wasn't even just Latin America fans. It was Black Dragons fans there. So it was. I imagine that whole fan base is probably cheering for another finals appearance.
Yeah.
So.
And of course,
so, without any
final...
surprise, Group D Tier 1 team is going to be Hands.
So our defending champions, they're going to be heading into the Invitational to try and prove that just because they won one season doesn't mean that that's all they're capable of winning. They're going to obviously want to try to add the World Championship to that. A bit of a different mix of the team, though, as they lost Shate, who's now on Penta. So they're going to be trying on, I believe his name is Uno, who's a new addition to that team. And for them, I think it's going to be trying to maintain the success they've had, because prior to last season, they were always the team that kind of went home and were cursed at LAN. Have they broken that curse? We'll find out in a month's time if they can make it out of group stages and then try to win again.
Yeah, it was really exciting to see ENCE win, and I was so happy to give Wilkie a hug at the end of that tournament. I mean, he really deserved that. I've been watching those guys compete since season 1, year 1, and they finally won last season, so it was really kind of amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a look at the group so far. Obviously, it's not going to be too filled out, not too much to talk about here, but you have Pentasport in Group A. Group B has Team Liquid. Group C has Black Dragons, and Group D has ENCE. So now we're going to draw all of the Tier 2 teams, the 4 Tier 2 teams, to see who is going to be up in these groups. Obviously, these are not the brackets that we're building right now, so these two teams will not necessarily face off in the first round, but they may face off in the second round. So we will draw that now. So this is for a Tier 2 team in Group A. And the Group A Tier 2 team is Evil Geniuses.
So Evil Genius is getting put in with Penta. I think that is that's already a very tough bracket for whoever else gets put in there. Yeah. Of course, Evil Genius is formerly known as Continuum. They're going to look to defend the fact that they are the only team on PC that has ever won the Invitational. A very similar to roster to what they had as well. And of course, big expectations with their org. They went home early at LAN last season. So this is not just going to be a story about proving that they can repeat at the Invitational, but that they can do well on LAN. And
they had a tough matchup last season.
They did, and they lost the eventual champions, which is a bit of a consolation prize. But you know, you're going in there and you're looking to defend. You are the reigning defending world champions. That's a lot of pressure, and they've got Penta in their bracket, and just Penta alone was already tough. But now that you have EG in there too, oh boy.
It's looking like a tough bracket right there for any of these Tier 3 teams. So, all right, so Group B Tier 2 team is... Let's draw this here. Rogue from North America.
So Rogue is going to be put in the same bracket as Liquid. So it's going to be a nice blue bracket right now. Yeah. And that's very interesting. So Rogue, the structure of Rogue was the team that was ERA last season, or last Invitational, that went to the finals. So much of this Rogue team has been to the finals at Invitational. They came up short by just a round or two. And bringing the same people back with as much success as they've had, being in all the lands that they have this season. Once again, I mean, all these brackets are going to be tough, but it's going to be interesting to see how Rogue matches up.
I gotta say, the finals last year at the Six Invitational were some of the most exciting moments in my history of working in gaming and working in for Rainbow Six Siege. So I cannot wait to see what these teams are going to be bringing out in this tournament, as it's there's so much more stakes, higher stakes on the line here, and bigger teams and everything like that. So for Group C, let's draw the Tier 2 team. I know chat is like, they're looking, but no, I'm not. All right, the Group C Tier 2 team is Elevate.
So the defending Xbox champions, who are going to be who've moved to PC now. They finished second in year 2, season 2 to Penta. So they're going to be trying to prove that they can make that transition at the Invitational from winning on Xbox. They knocked out Vitality, and they're going to be coming in now and in this group. And I think Elevate is a team that is going to be very, very hungry. Haven't really changed their roster around that much, actually. They've made a couple tweaks here and there. So it's a lot of the components that we saw at the Invitational last year are still together, and as a team have likely grown. So it's they can't repeat on Xbox, but at least they can try to do what nobody else has done, which is win on both.
Win on both. That would be quite the feat for those Elevate guys. That would be pretty amazing. I don't know. That would be pretty incredible. And of course, the Group D Tier 2 team is the final one that's left in the Tier 2, which is FaZe.
So FaZe and ENCE will be together, and that is a big challenge for FaZe. For those that are unfamiliar, FaZe is one of the newest orgs that we've welcomed into Rainbow Six. They picked up the roster formerly known as Font. And Font is, of course, one of the most successful Brazilian orgs that we've ever seen. Been to a number of LANs. They just won, I believe, the Brazilian LAN that just happened, defeating Black Dragons, and I believe it was a best-of-5 series as well. So big expectations for them coming in. I think you could realistically argue that FaZe is probably the biggest org in Siege right now. At this exact moment. So not only pressure there, but also to prove that they are they stack up well against both Liquid and Black Dragons. They're two, I guess, the two teams from their country that are in Tier 1 and they being in Tier 2.
Yeah, and FaZe obviously making that huge announcement yesterday that they will be entering the Rainbow Six Siege team. That's going to be scene. That's going to be pretty incredible. I'm so hyped to see them within this investing in the Rainbow Six scene, and it's going to be pretty cool. I'm excited. All right. So with that said, let's take a look at the group standings right now. In Group A, we have Penta, Evil Geniuses. Group B, Team Liquid, Rogue. Group C, Black Dragons, Elevate. And Group D, ENCE and FaZe. And just a reminder, we cannot have more than three teams from the same region.
More than two.
More than two teams in the same region. So we'll see how that plays out as we pick the Tier 3 teams.
Yes, the way it's laid out, I think it can only happen with European teams now.
Yeah, it looks that way. So. Yeah.
All right.
All right. So let's move on to the Tier 3 teams. Just a reminder, let's throw up the Tier 3 list, the groups of the teams, just so we know exactly who's in these in this tier, this final tier. So we have Era, ENCE, Room Factory, Supremacy, One Up Esports, Mindfreak, and the community vote, which is the vote is going on right now on the Twitter. So one of these teams will fill out the rest of the groups, and why don't we start with the drawing right now?
Yeah. So our first Tier 3 team, I'm gonna pick this one. And so in Group A, we will have One Up Esports.
Wow. So KS gets to potentially take revenge against his former team. You have KS, one of the newest members of One Up Esport, the German organization, stacking up against Penta and EG. And right now, this is the group that I don't want to be picked to play in amongst all of them, because that is going to be a heck of a showing. And yeah, that's going to be a good story there, though. KS taking on Penta, Penta proving potentially that they were right to make that roster change, and then Evil Geniuses just there kind of laughing while the two European teams beat up on each other right now. So.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see how the brackets form out. I think One Up will be facing against the Tier 2 team in Group A. So we'll see how that actually works out.
Playing EG first.
Yeah, playing EG, and we'll be releasing the bracket later on, just so it's very clear as to how these teams actually match up against each other. But right now, this is just to get a sense of the groups that they're forming in. So interesting. Group A is forming out to be interesting. Let's move on to Group B.
So for Group B, our first Tier 3 team is Mindfreak.
So joining Liquid and Rogue will be the Aussies of Mindfreak. They're coming back to the Invitational. They were here last year, but they were on console, and they won the APAC LAN that we just saw, defeating, if I remember correctly, it was Cryptic in the finals to earn their place here. And that's quite a journey for them to make. So to come all the way from Australia to pin the hopes on their team, it's the first Australian team that is actually going to be competing on PC. So that's a nice feather in their cap, because the only time that the Australian teams have been here was, of course, console. Previously, we saw Mantis and ENCE compete. That was a Korean and a Japanese team. And you don't really want to fly all that way to go home that early. So
absolutely.
I think it was a very impressive showing that they did in the APAC LAN. You know, they came in, and I don't think they were the favorite going into the LAN in Sydney a couple days ago, but they are the ones who pulled through. So now here they are. They have Liquid and Rogue to greet them.
All right, so that's the Tier 3 team for Group B. Let's draw for Group C.
So our third team of Group C is going to be Supremacy.
Ooh.
Oh, the French and Supremacy will match up against Elevate, if my memory serves me correctly, of the brackets. And that's, I know that Elevate was probably among the most vocal on Twitter to get Supremacy through because of their friendship with them being on console and Supremacy winning one of the 2 EU qualifier spots.
Yeah, and actually, let's take a look at the group stages, how the groups are looking right now. We still have Group D to draw, but I just want to remind the audience of where we're standing right now. Here's the Group C with Supremacy filling out that third slot. Man, that's looking like a really tough group. I mean, Supremacy, one of the most aggressive, dominant French teams out there. You got to have a lot of respect for them.
It's a very interesting bracket that you have in Group C. You've got 3 teams that have very consistent fragging potential and are all tremendously skilled at their gunfights, but they execute their strategies differently. Black Dragons is a team that you'll see will often get into position and then kind of all move in at once. It can be considered smothering. It can be methodical, but they can also have those entries when they need them. Elevate is a very aggressive team, especially on Roam. That duo of Skies and Laxing gets talked about a lot, but I think for good reason. And then you have Supremacy, which they are notorious for waiting until the final 30 seconds and then executing their strategy. And teams will say it's very difficult to push back because of the way that they set up crossfires and flanks in order to get in and potentially pinch you or take out anybody who might be roaming. So 3 very distinct styles matching up against each other, but all very good teams.
All very good.
So,
all right.
yeah.
So let's move on to the third seed for Group D.
All right. So our third team, in Group D is it is Eins.
So Eins will face off against Ents and FaZe in that same group. Those are the Japanese champions who won APAC last season. And that is going to be very difficult for them, I think, to go up against these 2 teams. Not to undersell them, of course, but I think that that's going to be a tough challenge for Eins, who, if I remember correctly, they actually were eliminated by the team that is now FaZe in the previous LAN. Yeah. And that's exactly who they have to play against. So they have a rematch from the previous LAN. And they have, I'm sure they're going to have revenge on their mind.
Yeah, and they're going to be really excited to be here in Montreal, obviously. But a tough journey to that entryway. So,
right.
Yeah. All right. So with that said, let's take another quick look at the group as they have formed so far. And we have Group A: Penta, Evil Geniuses 1UP, Team Liquid, Rogue, Mind Freak, Black Dragons, Elevate, Supremacy, Ents, FaZe, and Eins. And so that means that we can't have an EU team in Group A. So if the next ball that Max draws is EU, okay, absolutely. I think you're an excellent drawer.
Really?
Of groups.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So if the next ball that Max draws is EU, they will be moved to Group B. Indeed. So why don't we close out the group stages and draw the last 4 teams?
All right. So our team in Group A is going to be the last team. That's the community voted team.
All right.
So head to the twitter.com/R6Pro League to vote on that community vote. There's 4 teams up for grabs in that last group spot for Group A. It's going to be exciting to see.
And just so the community knows, if it just so happens that the community voted team is a EU team, that's the only way the rule is going to get bent, and we'll have 3 EU team in this group. That's the only way it can happen, not in this draw, but if it gets picked by you.
So if it's Vitality, then they'll just stay in the group because they are the EU team right now. But
Indeed.
Congratulations, you won the community vote. You faced Penta first.
Yeah.
welcome to the Invitational.
Welcome to the 6th Invitational.
And then if you beat Penta, you face the winner of 1UP versus EG. So that's a nice landing spot. So congratulations, you're very popular. Enjoy what could potentially be a short stay in Montreal.
We have great poutine here. It's all right.
And lots of snow.
Yeah, exactly. So let's finish out the last 3 teams.
All right, so for Group B, let's pick this one. The last team in Group B is going to be Room Factory.
So the other EU team that won, they won the EU Challenger League last season too. It's a team comprised of, if I remember correctly, Russians, Estonians, and a Swede. It's a Russian organization as well, and then they'll head into Group number B, or Group B, not number B. They're going to face off against Liquid. So Liquid's first foray as a team is going to be against to the best of my knowledge, right now, the only team that's not in Pro League, which is Room Factory. So
making their way through that qualifier round for the 6th Invitational. Really exciting to see what they're going to be able to pull out against a really strong team. Yeah,
especially considering like all those teams that just got off the qualifier. There's a lot of data about them. I guess every team's been studying them, been watching them. Whereas the Tier 1 and Tier 2 teams, we haven't seen from them in a while. I guess like some of them haven't played officially in a while.
Yeah.
So
might have a few tricks up their sleeve.
Yeah, indeed. All right, so for Group C.
Yeah, so the final 2 teams that we have are Yeah Gaming and Era Eternity. So we'll be drawing those for Group C and Group D.
So for Group C, we're gonna have Yay Gaming.
Yeah.
So the newest org, and we just made their roster announcement earlier today, comprised of 3 former members of Pain Gaming and 2 former members of INTZ or INTZ Gaming, Brazilian orgs, of course, and they'll slide into Group number 3. Now, they're a team that we don't really know much about. They played a very unconventional style. We saw a lot of blitz play, we saw a lot of castle play, a lot of interesting operators that seemed to perplex their opponents, and I think in the qualifiers there's a good chance in a best of 1 that can work for a one-off. But I don't know, once teams start to dig into their strats and all of that, and you're playing against the best of the best in the whole world, I don't know how well that's going to work. It's going to be a tough challenge, and I'm pretty excited though to see how they do, because they've definitely beaten expectations up to this point, and I'd kind of like to see that keep going.
Absolutely. Yeah, going to be exciting. And of course, our final team, that means
it is Era. I mean, let's make sure.
Let's make sure.
Era, just to be sure, but yeah, it is Era.
So they'll return to the Invitational. Era as an organization finished 2nd to Continuum last time around. Of course, a different roster. This is the skeleton, I guess the bones of this organization was excellence. Previously was most wanted. You've got a lot of fragging potential, and they pretty much bulldozed their way through the NA qualifiers.
Yeah,
I think
they were very dominant.
They were very, very dominant, and they won decisively in almost every single matchup that we saw them in. And if they can continue doing that and make sure that they're not outfoxed by their opponents, then they are going to be much more formidable than I think a Tier 3 team would suggest. But at the same time, they've got Ainz, they've got FaZe, and they've got ENTZ. That's going to be a tough bracket to begin with. But
speaking of the groups, let's pull up the final group standing for all the teams, all 16 teams at the 6th Invitational. Anything that really sticks out to you, Parker, that it's going to be kind of a good story to follow in the 6th Invitational?
I do not want to be in Group A. That is first and foremost. Group A.
Even with that community vote team, it's going to be very strong.
Group A is the group to beat for me right now at this moment. I think it's going to be probably the toughest bracket for all of those teams. If I'm looking at this, there are 2 of the groups. I think that there's no clear top 2, if I'm being completely honest. But the other thing is as was said earlier, there's going to be some of these teams who are going to be coming in. They could potentially not be prepared because they haven't really played a lot of matches recently, or they couldn't be adapting to the new changes to the operators, the new operators that have been introduced, or maybe they're just not going to match up well. Take a look. Let's go back 2 seasons. A lot of people thought that Elevate was going to get bounced out of Year 2, Season 2. They came in as the 3rd seed in NA. They stacked up very well against ENTZ, and then,
they were super
against
surprising in that
tournament. Latin America's and then they make it. The Latin America teams, they make it to the finals to go against Penta. You never really can tell what's going to happen. And my main takeaway is it's just good luck to every team that is competing.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the final groups for all the 16 teams. Obviously, the community vote still to be decided upon, but this is sets the stage for the tournaments that will be starting on February 13th to 16th, and the competition at the main stage from the 16th to the 19th. So with that said, that is the group stage drawing for the Six Invitational. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really kind of exciting to do this and to have these teams all set so that we know exactly where these teams will be landing in the future. More information will be coming out about the final bracket that you guys will actually be able to see, and more from ESL on that. But the groups are set, the stage is set.
Yeah.
We're ready for the Six Invitational.
And we're stoked for it.
We're so stoked, as you can hear in Max's hoarse voice. He's
yeah. No, we are really. I mean, I'm really looking forward to everything that's going to happen and there to celebrate. I think the development team here is really excited to get to the event and get to meet the fans, share with them, and just like, yeah, share a bit of insights. There'll be a lot of this at the event. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Parker, any last words?
Good luck to all of the teams. I'm really excited. It's only a month away. It honestly doesn't feel like it's that close.
Oh, trust me, to me, it feels like it's that close.
For me, honestly, for me, and I think the teams can agree to this, it feels like it's an eternity away. So I'm ready to go. I want to start these matches. I want everybody to be here. I've only been to one LAN. It was in Sao Paulo. It was an incredible experience. I had an awesome time, and I'm eager to be able to get back into it when we start. And I appreciate you allowing me to come out here and join you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Probably would have been a little bit lost without you.
This knowledge,
but this was great. Thank you everybody to tuning in. Thank you to Craig and JB for helping out. Thank you to the entire production team, Andrew and Andre, camera 2, Victoria, and of course Jeremy helping out as well. And Max, thank you very much. We're so excited for the Six Invitational. Parker, thank you very much. Coming up right now is the sneak peek premiere teaser of our upcoming video documentary series. Check it out right now.
If you want to get into the Pro League of Rainbow Six Siege, it's extremely achievable.
Adaptation, stratégie, destruction, tout ça, c'est Rainbow Six Siege.
You just got to keep trying to evolve constantly.
There's an infinite amount of ways a map can be played through destruction.
We're all highly competitive people, and we're not satisfied if we aren't the best.
I remember this clutch was too fast for a player to do that.